We're back, and of course, we are live on X Spaces. You can join the conversation on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course, on myjoyonline.com. My name is Elton Bobby, as always. Now, President John Mahama has mandated all his appointees to declare their assets by March 31st, 2025, or risk consequences, including possible removal from office. The directive comes after President Mahama himself officially declared his assets in compliance with the constitutional requirements. His written declaration submitted to the Audit Service and received by the Auditor General Johnson Akuamo details the properties and assets he owns.
I've just performed a simple but brief, very important act of presenting my completed assets declaration forms to the Auditor General as required by Article 286 of the 1992 Constitution and the Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualifications Act 1998, Act 550. Ghana's assets declaration regime and its related activities have often been shrouded in secrecy, and only unless in special circumstances compliance is often difficult to measure. In times past, I would privately have presented these forms to the Auditor General in fulfillment of my statutory obligation. I've taken this step of presenting these forms publicly as a way of injecting some openness and transparency into the process of assets declaration. I've always maintained that while it is all well and good to punish corruption, a more effective way of addressing the canker is preventing it from occurring in the first place. I honestly believe that if properly curated and enforced, the assets declaration process can become a sustainable tool for tackling corruption. Corruption by nature is insidious and thrives under the cover of darkness. The more light that is shown on it, the more likely that it will be fought successfully. I've also taken this step to send an unmistakable signal to all public office holders, especially those that I have appointed, that I take the declaration of assets very seriously and expect full compliance from them. I've asked the Chief of Staff to send word to all appointees to ensure that they declare their assets by the end of the first quarter of this year, that is by 31st March 2025. I wish to stress that any appointee failing to meet this deadline would face severe sanctions, not excluding removal from office. Even as we strive to hold past government officials accountable for their stewardship, I deem it even more imperative to enforce anti-corruption among our present public office holders. Charity, they say, begins at home. I'm therefore determined to take the necessary steps to ensure that we fight corruption vigorously so that the precious little resources that have been entrusted to us by the Ghanaian people are used only in their interest. There have been issues raised about the effectiveness of the current assets declaration regime. We must take advantage of the current constitution review process to strengthen the assets declaration regime to make it more relevant to changing times. I believe that we must move to a regime where the assets so declared can be published before and after public office, so that the phenomenon of unexplained and overnight wealth, obviously earned through the proceeds of corruption, can be checked. I trust that a healthy debate can be had over this issue and consensus built on the way forward, so that collectively we can defeat the unwholesome canker of corruption.
Right, so we're going to hear from the Auditor General shortly, because he raised some issues about what the ministers or those who are expected to declare their assets are supposed to do. We'll bring that one to you shortly. But the thing is that, I mean, President Mahama has done what is expected of him as contained in the 1992 Constitution, the details of which we do not know. Let's bring in an anti-corruption crusader, Adam Senano. He joins us via. We'll also get some comments from the seat of government, the presidency. But let me start with Mr. Senano. Also joining us is private legal practitioner Martin Pebu. First of all, Mr. Senano, you heard President Mahama. This may not be enough. The reason why there's an ongoing process to review the 1992 Constitution, such that in the exercise that he undertook today, perhaps we would have known the property owned by the president.
Absolutely. First of all, I think it's important to commend the president for showing leadership by example. And I think he makes it quite categorically clear that he's not going to countenance any of his appointees who do not also do same by the end of 31st March. I think that's a very good start. Now, however, the instrument we are dealing with has a challenge, and that is the issue of verification first. Secondly, the issue of publication. And some would even suggest even the issue of scope. So we don't know what the president has put in that document, and that's unfortunate. Ideally, as our sister nation, Nigeria, has done, this should be put out for any citizen to be able to go and cross-check and confirm that what they do know about the assets of the president is fully captured in his declaration. So that is a gap that should be addressed. I'm not quite sure whether it is just a constitutional matter. I think that the law itself is where the issue is. I think the Constitution sets out the framework. I don't think we have a problem, so to speak, there. I think the problem is at the operational level where the current law is not fit for purpose.
Let me take the initial reaction of private legal practitioner, Mr. Martin Kpebu. So, Mr. Kpebu, this clearly should not call for any fanfare because that is expected of him anyway. And if you can unmute for me, Mr. Kpebu.
Martin, you are muted.
Okay. Yes, right. Mr. Brobe.
Yes.
I think the fanfare is in order because, like the president said, he's doing this to motivate the appointees to do the same. So that at least now that it's been done, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm sure people would send this news item round. You find it on the various social media handles. And so it will remind the appointees. The only snag is that I think the March 31st is too long. I say so because, you see, the Constitution actually says it should be done before appointees take office. It should be, it not should, the word is not should, it must be done before appointees take office. So look at Article 286 Clause 1. It says that a person who holds a public office mentioned in Clause 5 of this article shall submit to the Auditor General a written declaration of all property or assets owned by or liabilities owed by him, whether directly or indirectly. A, within 3 months after the coming into force of this Constitution. So this is out. The Constitution has been on for how many years now? Or before taking office. Or before taking office, as the case may be. So it simply means if it's the case of the Constitution just coming into force, then it's 3 months. But if the Constitution is being enforced for more than 3 months, then it must be before. So I think President Mahama, we should appeal to him to look at it again. Because initially, I heard 2 weeks. And even when he mentioned 2 weeks, we drew his attention to 286 Clause 1. Now he's gone to March 31st. I think we can do better. The reason I say so, and let's pay attention to this, is that, of course, let me also mention, there's a certain law there. The president also mentioned it, the public office holders, into brackets, declaration of assets, blah, blah, law. When you go in there, it gives up to 6 months, right? But that is wrong. You know, when you read Clause 1 of this Constitution, it makes it clear that the Constitution is the supreme law. So that particular provision you find in the Act 550 is unconstitutional. And I'm aware that Mensah Thompson has taken that case to court.
Right.
The Supreme Court is going to rule on it. So I'm talking about Article 1, Clause 2. That this Constitution shall be the supreme law of Ghana, and any other law found to be inconsistent with any provision of this Constitution shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. So the March 31st is far. It's far. I think President Mahama can do something about it. March 31st is really far. And you see, Mr. Broby, now let's come to the practical aspect of it. Why March 31st is not good enough. Look, Mr. Broby, let's speak plainly. I always say we should speak plainly. If not, then we can forget about the fight against corruption. Look, plain truth is that when a minister takes office, the vendors, the big contractors who do the deals, they all line up and come to greet. So the deals begin. So look, speaking plainly, even at the time they come to greet, depending on which ministry, Charlie, there are deals. There are deals. March 31st, yeah, it looks like a joke. To be very, very honest with you, March 31st looks like a joke. Because by then, vendors would have come to see the ministers, deputies, etc. And so you can get extra money. And then the asset declaration form will be, let me call it bloated, because, yeah, the minister is coming to office. Look, I'm telling you that even if a minister is in office 1 week, you know the deals that can be made in a week. You just look. Look, let me show you. In the ministry, you know that, okay, hopefully, just look at last year's budget. And look, okay, my ministry, let's say, got 100 million last year. How many went into procurements? Maybe if it's even 30 million. So if you like, you can even be conservative, maybe because of our IMF challenges. So perhaps this year, this ministry will not get 30 million, maybe we'll get 20. Yeah, based on 20, something. Oh, you can talk, so you can make some estimation, you'll get something. So straight.
So the March 31st deadline is just too far.
Oh, very far. It's impracticable. I mean, no. President Mahama should kindly look at it again. You see, right now he has a lot of goodwill. So let's do it right. And Mr. Broby, I want anybody else who gives an opinion on this matter, I want us to also consider critically this fact, and it's from practice. Look, let me tell you, even if for each of the ministerial positions, even if there were 30 people lobbying, I don't think each one of them you have 30. But look, even if you say 100, let's say 100 people are lobbying for that position. Let me show you this, Mr. Broby. The lobbying doesn't start overnight.
Absolutely.
Right. Some started 6 months ago. And that's not like that's the first lobbying. But the reason I'm referring to the 6 months one is that it's publicly out there, where Mr. Seydou Ketia came out and made known to the public that the lobbying was distracting the campaign activities. Check. It must have been sometime June or July. Let's just Google it. Seydou Ketia complains about lobbying taking too much time. Joy News, I think you carried it. Your sister station carried it, right? So my point is that because these papers don't cost much, 1 page, 2 pages, then when you start lobbying, please go to Auditor General's office and get the form. So start filling in. And I'm telling you that even the 6 months, it's not everybody who started 6 months ago. Some people started lobbying even 2 years ago, because this election was won in the year 2022. By end of 2022, it was clear that MPP couldn't win. You know, that was the year of the hyperinflations, COMD and so much. You know, I even helped, did Kumi Preku reloaded demonstration in November 2022, etc. So 2022 was the critical, the deciding year. So my point is that these lobbyings don't start. It's not 2 hours. You just go and tell the president, I want to be regional minister. Then the next 2 hours you are giving. No. So my point is that at the time you are lobbying, also go for the form. If, let's say, Auditor General is concerned that every lobbyist or every potential candidate has to come for the form, I don't see anything wrong if we start selling the forms for maybe 5 Ghana or 10 Ghana.
But again, right? if the timelines is what is of essence to you, the lobbying obviously would take place at the time the party will still be campaigning for election to government. So I'm wondering how that become practicable. That is, if you want, because you may not be sure that you will be given the position you'll be lobbying for. But Mr. Kwebu, just hold it there for me because I'll come to you for a response. Let me bring
so we're saying every potential candidate should buy the form.
I get you.
Yes.
I get you. I'll come back to you because the key matter here is that, I mean, it's been done. Everybody's going to do it by the end of 31st March. The question is, we don't even know the content of what they will be declaring. And so how do we even fight corruption if there's one to use? But let me bring in Shamima Muslim, his deputy government spokesperson. Shamima, it's a pleasure to have you here. First time speaking to you. So let me say Happy New Year to you and a pleasure to have you here on the show.
Indeed, good afternoon and a pleasure to be on your program as well. Happy New Year as well.
Great. So the question is, why was the media invited to cover something that is constitutionally required of the president?
Thank you once again. I think that the president himself made reference to the fact that this is something he would have done privately as he has done in the past. But because of the focus of his current mandates and what he wants to do in terms of resetting, this country, there are a lot of symbolic actions that he has been taking since he came into office. And today was one such symbolic action to, again, convey to the people of Ghana, but also to convey very seriously to his appointees that these things that he asks of them, he takes them seriously, and people will pay the prices and the price if they don't comply. And it's also to draw our collective attention to the raft of other public office holders.
We appear to be losing Shamima there because of connection issues. Let's see if we can rectify that and bring her back on the show. But let me bring in Senanu whilst we work to re-establish connection to Shamima. So, Senanu, on TV, we all saw it. We don't even know the content. The question is, the Auditor General says the only time he will invite those who will declare to come to his office will be when they refuse to fill certain spaces required of them. Now, if a minister or a government appointee is to submit or declare his assets and we don't know the content, perhaps the temptation is that a person who is bent on stealing may tell you that I owe this way in actual fact the person doesn't owe, with the hope that he will still to owe such property. So when the president called for a review or amendment to the law, it fits right in opening it up to the public, isn't it?
That's a very critical aspect of improving what we already have, that we figure out how the verification is done. And indeed, he mentioned it, that the issue of verification was one that needs to be addressed. Perhaps I need to listen again to him because he seemed to have suggested that the constitutional review would help with that.
Right.
But in my mind, I don't see it as a constitutional review. I think the constitutional part of it is quite clear. It's the law itself that needs fixing. So law reform is potentially what we need to be looking at. And then the state can lead that process by engaging Parliament on that.
So we don't really need a review of the Constitution to make it public?
I don't think that this is one of the areas where the Constitution has a problem. I think the constitutional part is not the issue. The real issue is the operational law. So yes, the constitutional review has many other things that we can be looking at. I think that fundamentally, for this particular issue, is the law itself that needs fixing.
Mr. Kwebu, did you share in the same narrative by Mr. Senanu that we don't need a review of the Constitution?
Oh, Mr. Senanu, I thought we were on the same campaign asking for the review because now, and
no constitutional review, we all agree.
I'm extremely happy he has repeated. Yeah, and I'm happy President Mama has repeated the promise that he wants to work towards publication and verification. Because if you go to Article 286, the circumstances under which the document can be opened are one, when the court of competent jurisdiction says so, or B, before a commission of inquiry appointed under Article 278, or C, before an investigator appointed by the commissioner for SHRAG. So apart from these circumstances, you can't get to know the contents. So we need to change the law. Maybe this perhaps it's mixed up with another. I know the provisions, the things we want, there are many. Maybe this one is mixed up with another. Because we need to change this law. Article 286 clause 3. We need to change it. It should be published. And let's quickly remind ourselves that in the revolutionary days, we were publishing. I have some of the forms here. If I'd had time, I would have pulled some out. Yes. So they were published at Assembly Press. So I'm talking about Rawlings regime, the PNDC era. We had the PNDC law that allowed publication. So today, even if you go to Assembly Press yourself, you can get some to buy, right? Yeah, so you see Totobi Kwache, Mary Grant, Steve Obimpe, Rawlings himself, P.V. Obin, etc. I have some of them here. I wish I could, yes, I have some. I have some of them. So I think when the Constitution 1992 came into force, then because of this provision.
So a review is key in this matter,
I defer to lawyer Martin Pebu. I think he's right. The Article 286 is limiting the circumstances under which you can open it. Right. Yes, absolutely right.
Right. Yeah. So we've got Shamima back. The connection to her is now stable. So Shamima also asking, I mean, to what extent will this deepen government transparency, this single act by the president, to what extent will it deepen transparency in the Mahama administration? I think Amuti will do muted. For you.
Okay, there we go.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear now. Yes.
Well, your line is breaking, but if you can hear me, I think the point I was just trying to make is that anyone who has been watching His Excellency John Dramani Mahama in this, his legacy mandate would agree largely to the fact that he's doing the right things in terms of the programs, policies, and the, symbolic actions that he's taking, from, again, his own reference to the Constitution review and the committee that he has set to ensure that we are resetting on a solid foundation. That foundation is the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. And so I am happy to be part of a government that is taking all the right steps to reset this country. Will we get all the steps right all the time? I'm sure we may not get all the steps right all the time, but the intention is pure, and the actions being taken towards the fulfillment of the Ghana we want to build together are all indicative of leadership commitment. I'd also want to reiterate the fact that, of course, Martin Pebu says the 31st March deadline is too far. Well, we take that in good faith, but the announcement has been made. We expect all appointees to have filed their asset declaration forms by the end of 31st. In fact, the interesting thing I'm happy to announce is that many appointees already appointed have actually filed their asset declaration forms already. So this was just perhaps a warning to those who have not yet done it, and also to those who are still angling for positions. Let me also just add that it is not easy to assume or presume that you will get a position in government. I think that a campaign period, as everybody keeps telling and keeps sharing, is very difficult. It's very, very different from a governance period. Right. The dynamics of campaigning and lobbying are in sharp contrast to the realities that happen after a party comes into government. So it is not given that because you were angling for a position, you should, as a matter of course, start, counting your chicks before they are hatched.
Right.
Even though I appreciate the point, but I think that practically many people would rather not jinx themselves by, taking some of these steps to want to start.
Yes, but Shamima, just a final question for you. If you are captured in this category, I'm wondering whether you've done yours already. Well, again, the connection to her is that bad. Let me pick final thoughts for Mr. Martin Pebu and, of course, Adam Sedano. So, Mr. Pebu, your final thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, so, Mr. Brophy, I think what we should do, I'm still the same Pebu. Please, you guys have to go and interview President Mahama again. You have to, let's read Article 286 clause 1 to him. They get busy. Let's push. No, that's why we brought him. I'm unashamed to say that, yes, I voted for him. Okay, that's my first time of voting for him. And I was clear that I was not going to vote for Bawumia. I didn't hide it because I voted for Akufo-Addo the first time and got sorely disappointed. So I voted for JM. But it doesn't mean that if JM gets the law wrong, because I voted for him, I would not say anything. No, we have to point out to him gently. It's a democracy we are building. I think if we push enough, it's going to have to reverse it. Because, and especially as this is not the first time, right? So when I say this is not the first time we are doing this story, about, I remember also earlier in January, when the first batch of appointees were being sworn in, he gave them 2 weeks.
Right.
And Joy FM, I think we were even in Tamale. The order had gone to Tamale. So we granted interviews from Tamale, where we said, no, His Excellency should look at it. The law says before. So maybe they've forgotten. All we just need is go seek to interview him. Right. I'm sure now that we are talking, Shamima, even considering the position she occupies, maybe there is a way she can draw the attention of the more senior members and then to get to JM. But Joy FM, you can also ask to interview the president. That is what the Constitution says. Mr. President, should we be allowing this to go further and further? We are supporting him. We supported him to come, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't point out the law.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin Pebu, for your time. Let me bring in Shamima. We lost you again. I asked whether if you fall into this category, whether you've done yours.
So what I wanted to also quickly add, I don't know if you can hear me, my line keeps tripping, is to say that there are people who are being appointed today. So those who are being appointed today, those who are appointed, who got their letters, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, do not fall within the remits of those who are expected to have done what they were supposed to do within 2 weeks. At the time that the president made that comment, everybody who was within that bracket, I can assure you that almost all of them have since filed their, asset declaration form. So that is what I would want to clarify. So I think by the end of March, the president envisages that he would have done a lot of his appointments. Right. And so people would have time to quickly just, go ahead and file their asset declaration form.
And now I ask, if you are in this category, have you filed yours?
In fact, mine is ready. I'm filing tomorrow.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm a Muslim Deputy Head of Government Communication. Let me give Mr. Senanu the final word on this matter.
Well, I think that it's good to be mindful of the Constitution. I don't think it's unpractical. I think that when you have been appointed, take a day to fill in. In fact, once you get into the vetting or whichever mode, you should be ready with that list of items. Just make sure you've completed it, filed it, and then take office. It's important that we take things like the Constitution very seriously. Kudos to the President for showing the way. We are excited that the Constitutional Review Committee will look at some of these matters. And let's hold everybody accountable. That way, hopefully, we'll get better results in terms of anti-corruption and the fight that we're engaged in at the moment.
Thank you so much. Adam Sedano is anti-corruption crusader. We'll leave it here and continue this discussion going forward. Now, let me take you live to the International Press Center, where the president of the Ghana Journalists Association is addressing the media on a variety of issues.
The issues raised with him received prompt response and reaction from the police. Attacks against journalists. Colleagues, in our maiden press conference, we also addressed the barbaric attack on Ofori-Atta of the Multimedia Group Limited by a mob of illegal small-scale miners operating in the Offense Shelter Belt Forest Reserve. Ofori-Atta, while leading a joint news team to cover a police operation to clamp down on the activities of the illegal miners, was nearly killed by the mob. We also record how Erastus Asari Donko, another journalist of the Multimedia Group Limited, was brutally assaulted by small-scale miners last year. As we speak, 1 month after the attack on Ofori-Atta and 1 year after Erastus was brutally attacked, the police have not yet prosecuted the perpetrators to ensure justice for our injured colleagues. While grappling with the attack on Ofori-Atta as the first case of assault against journalists in 2025, the count became rapid when 6 journalists were assaulted within a space of 1 week in the month of February. 4 of the attacks occurred in Kumasi in the Ashanti region and 2 at Walewale in the Northeast region. It is very sad to note that in the month of love, when people are demonstrating love to their dear ones with red gifts, our colleagues who were in the line of duty were made to see red blood as reward for serving Mother Ghana. It is also disheartening to note that just about 50 days into the second John Mahama administration, we have witnessed even 7 cases of assault against journalists. And I stress on that it is also disheartening to know that just about 50 days into the second John Mahama administration, we have witnessed 7 cases of assault against journalists. This is unprecedented. Colleagues, in the Kumasi incident, the 4 journalists were assaulted on February 11, 2025, while covering the election of the Ashanti region representative on the Council of State. The election took place at the Regional Coordinating Council, the office of the regional minister, Ashanti regional minister, who is also the chairman of the Regional Security Council, in short, RECSEC. Strangely, some thugs managed to invade the premises to disrupt the election process and viciously assault the 4 journalists. Colleagues, the GJA Ashanti region assisted the victim to go to hospital and report the matter to the police. Our intelligence suggests that the thugs and criminals who assaulted the journalists are supporters or sympathizers of the ruling National Democratic Congress, NDC. Unfortunately, no arrest or prosecution have been made. The mind-boggling question is, if RECSEC cannot provide security in its own backyard, how can it provide security elsewhere? This only sends worrying signals that Ghana is heading towards a state of anarchy. It appears there's no law and order, and there's no security in the country. That is most unfortunate. Colleagues, in the Walewale's case, journalist Alasan Dukulugu of Asasi Radio and journalist Tahiru Ibrahim of ZA Multimedia were assaulted by military personnel while covering an incident involving the setting ablaze of a bus at Nelerigu Junction. The incident occurred in the presence of the police, but they neither protected the journalist nor arrested the perpetrators, as the police are mandated to do by law. We once again call on the Ghana Police Service, as promised by the IGP, to bring the perpetrators to face justice. We will not end there. We also call on the Military High Command to investigate this incident and sanction the wayward military personnel. The assault of the 2 journalists at Walewale and other incidents of lawlessness and impunity across the country fortify our belief that Ghana is heading to a state of anarchy, and people of good conscience must resist and halt that trend. We also intend to petition the Military High Command over the Walewale incident, since it involves a soldier. And we trust in the competencies. We trust in the competence of General Thomas upon Prepara, the Chief of the Defense Staff, to do the needful to bring his boy to order. Colleagues, there were some disturbing issues that attended the Walewale incident, which need to be addressed frontally. First, after the journalists had produced their ID cards to establish their identity, the soldiers allegedly asked why they, that's the journalists, were not wearing branded jackets. We wish to make this clear that in as much as wearing of branded jackets may be desirable for journalists in their field of work, even for their safety and security, not doing so does not take away their real and true identity. And we dare say it does not in any way whatsoever warrant assault. It is also not the duty of a soldier or police, our men and women in uniform, to tell a journalist the attire to wear as clearance for discharging their constitutional watchdog mandate. Their job is to protect journalists and civilians from harm, not to subject them to harm. And their mandate is to assist journalists and civilians, not to assault them. The second issue is the assertion made by the security personnel that the journalists could not cover the incident because they, that the security personnel, were undertaking an operation. That is absolutely false. We are not aware of any law that shields security personnel from media scrutiny in the public space. In fact, there are many instances where the courts have ruled in favor of media coverage of the activities of security personnel in the public space. So for the police and military to operate with such mindset is tantamount to lawlessness. Colleagues, we wish to take this opportunity to appeal to one of our own, senior member of this fraternity, the President of the Republic of Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama, to take a personal interest in these cases as the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and ensure that the perpetrators are arrested, arraigned, and punished for their crimes. In making this appeal, we remind the President of the commitment he made to the media and the nation on 7 July 2024 at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel. During a media engagement, on that occasion, I, on behalf of the GJA and the media fraternity, asked President Mahama, then flag bearer of the NDC, about his thoughts on the privatization of the state-owned media and assault against media practitioners. The president said he was against, yes, the president said once again, he was against both instances and pledged to promote the interest of the media at all times. This is the time we expect the president, who is one of us, to redeem his pledge and to share in the plight of journalists. We shall continue to remind him of his assuring words. We hope he will not give us cause to believe those words were mere rhetoric. Undesirable media practices. Colleagues, we do not always cry about negative treatment against media practitioners. We also decry negative media practices, both with a view to ensuring free and responsible media. Our attention has been drawn to one of such negative media practices, which we wish to address promptly. It is about the designation of the midday news on Angel FM. They call it orgasm news. We think using the word orgasm to christen the midday news defiles decency in journalism. We urge the management of Angel FM to be positively innovative and find an angelic name for the midday news. Taking counsel from 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 23. All things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. All things are lawful, but not all things edify. American Standard Version. The management of Angel FM ought to appreciate the mission of angels. They bring good news, not orgasm news. Issues of national concern. Colleagues, in our maiden press conference for this year, we justified the mandate of the GJA to address critical issues of national concern and not just those bordering on the media. We made reference to our broad watchdog mandate under Article 162(5) of the 1992 Constitution as the basis for justification. As the basis for such justification. Proceeding from that tangent, one critical national issue we wish to address today is the high cost of locally produced chocolate. As you can see, we've demonstrated some here. There has always been a clarion call on Ghanaian and other nationals resident in the country to consume made in Ghana products. There is also a good reason for renaming Valentine's Day as National Chocolate Day in Ghana and dedicating the month of February for chocolate consumption, the month of love. We are all expected to show love with chocolate to our dear ones on Chocolate Day. Is it not the case? Yeah. But the price of locally produced chocolate is too high and way beyond the pockets of the middle and lower classes of society. For instance, one bar of golden tree chocolate is sold at wholesale price for 25 Ghana cedis at the Cocoa Board shop in Accra. In other shops, the same bar of chocolate is sold at retail price for 30 Ghana cedis, while on the streets it is sold for 40 Ghana cedis. How many Ghanaians can afford this with the current minimum wage of 18.15 pesos? They cannot afford this. But since their taste buds are active and they may crave for chocolate, the reasonable thing for them to do is to resort to foreign products at the detriment of our national economy. Why can't Ghana, the second leading cocoa producer in the world, produce chocolate at affordable prices for Ghanaians to enjoy the fruit of their labor and the gift from their maker. We urge the cocoa board and our very good friend and brother who is now leading the charge, Comrade and Senior Randy Abe, and Cocoa Processing Company to do something about this, since we are still in the chocolate month, the month of love. Long live press freedom in Ghana. Long live GJA. Long live Ghana. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, President. Thank you. Thank you very much, President of GJA, Mr. Abedjumfo. I think we got that message. We got that message right. I think the most interesting one will be the chocolate affair, because we all love chocolate, don't we? You know, sometimes you need to bring it down a bit. You don't need to be overly serious. It's the month of love, by the way. You know, but on a more serious note, there's absolutely no justification for an attack on a journalist. Absolutely. We got that message right. There's no justification. You can't justify anything at all.
Right, so we've been watching a news conference from the International Press Center addressed by the President of the Ghana Journalists Association. And of course, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll talk about the National Education Conference currently underway in the Volta Regional Capital Hall here on the Pulse.